Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Father of a Stolen Child, Arwin, Neil, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Hey, Arwin.
Hello, Nathan.
Hello, Rams. Good to have you. How's everybody doing? Everyone happy?
Happy.
Excellent.
Happy
That's
and
good to
happy
know.
and bursting with love.
Same here, bursting with love, joy, and happiness as always. Any evidence of a physical, geometric sphere edge, that's a horizon formerly known as Earth curvature.
Well, if there was, we wouldn't be on the show today.
That's true.
So right off the onset, is there a baller who wants to come and show it to us so we can cancel the show?
Yeah, on that subject, there's obviously a need for a debate, in spite of the fact there is no debate. Earth is obviously, observably, measurably, and navigatably flat. So therefore, technically, there is no debate. We've won. All of the arguments are covered. This housekeeping session is merely an invitation to anybody who's still got the fundamentalist religious zealot belief that they're on a sphere to express their pain to us while we ask these questions. But the debate, you're right. I keep this debate going because it's longevity. There's definitely a majority of people who think they're on a sphere, therefore think we're wrong. So, therefore, I've got to show until the alternative is in place, which is to say that enough people just understand and appreciate the Earth to be flat for it to be the case that they can just transition without anyone noticing. Yeah, we already knew. What is it? It's opposed violently and then accepted as though it was obvious all along.
I have an idea. Rename the show Ball Earth Berate.
No. It's more loving than that because Nathan is asking them to share their pain. So he's here to help them cope with it. It's therapy, actually, the show for ballers. I'm not sure about anti-flat earthers, but for ballers, it's therapy.
Well, the anti-flat earthers, what do they think about this curvature measurement now? I don't think I've really heard any of them address it.
I couldn't get an answer out of Jem Panda's crew. They just obfuscate and circle around it, but they don't address it.
Address what? You're saying it. Make it specific. What is it specifically?
Measurements.
So
The
detailed,
Earth
so
measurement.
concise. Measurements. What, of your car?
What are we talking about? Mars? Talking about Earth. Measurements of Earth. It's measured flat.
Thank you, Neil. Indeed. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, well, there used to be a claim that you could draw a tangent to the horizon and use geometry to get a curvature drop. Is that out now? Do they not claim that anymore?
Well, the defense of it as an anti-flat earther was published recently by Quantum Eraser, although it was the initial reaction, this sort of stupid blurting out with your mic as loud as it can possibly be, that nobody's ever claimed that we would measure the geometric dip angle as Al-Biruni did by way of a measurement to the horizon, was Jem Panda's declaration on Quantum Eraser's numpty clips yesterday.
Right, but it still conceals things behind it, right? So the horizon is not geometric. It's something else, but things still disappear behind it because it blocks them.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, yeah, that
does?
doesn't make sense. No.
Well, they believe it though.
Believe
For
which bit
something
of
to
it?
block something,
Go on it, Neil.
I was going to say, for something to block something, it has to be physical. It has to be in the way.
Right.
Well, that's what
Well,
they're
they
saying
say
doesn't
it
make
is.
sense. That's the bit they're saying doesn't make sense, Harwin.
I know.
But you said they believe it. What's to believe?
Well, it blocks things behind it. It's just not geometric.
But that just repeating it. Okay, let's move into Arwin chanting mode. What the? Yeah,
Yay!
we all heard it, and we're dissecting it. We're just saying this is unreconcilable. So, what is there to believe in if it's unreconcilable? Is my question, Arwin. Don't just
Well-
repeat it again, please.
Well, it just sounds reasonable, and then you move on.
But that's to imply that cognitively they don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Arwen, if it's geometric,
No, it's
where'd you
not
get-
geometric.
I know, but you said they accept that it is. Isn't that
No,
based on the
no,
radius?
no. No, it's not geometric. It just only blocks things behind it. That's all.
It's a contradiction in terms.
Went back to the same thing.
Right, it's a contradiction in terms, right? The assertion is a geometric assertion that it physically blocks things. So to say it's not geometric, welcome to Flat Earth. Not let's try and figure out how you're going to square this circle, Fundy, with a globe belief, now anti-flat earther. That's not our problem. Now, back in the day before we identified these separate groups, globe believers and anti-flat earthers, it was just like, what can you do other than point and laugh or point out their contradiction with that and the globe belief? From here on forward, it's going to be, which position are you fighting? Are you fighting for the actual globe rhetoric? Let's say it's Coriolis that they want to argue about. Are you fighting that Earth turns underneath to give us 15 degrees an hour drift? That's Coriolis effect. If you say that's not Coriolis effect, piss off. Get out. You don't understand. We do. And anybody can look up what we're declaring when we say non-inertial spinning reference frame turning beneath an inertial reference frame to cause not actual deflection at a rate of 15 degrees an hour on a turning Earth. You disagree with that claim, then bugger off. Or make your anti-flat Earth claim, which is, don't you understand conservation of momentum? As long as we can establish that you're fighting against 15 degrees an hour, we'll just then move on to pointing that out to you. So you're anti-flat earther, here to tell us that Earth and atmosphere move as one, and you just assume it's all spinning. So you're basically debunking the 15 degrees an hour drift that we're supposed to see because we turn beneath then. We'll just succinctly summarise that they're an anti-flat earther fighting the globe position, rather than trying to get them to actually adhere to the globe claim, which is what we've done in years gone by. Well, you must claim that the Earth turns beneath the globe. That's the globe claim. No, it's a conservation of angular momentum. You don't understand Coriolis. It's like, we're way past that now. We do understand Coriolis. Earth turning beneath stuff to cause it to seem to drift at a rate of 15 degrees an hour is the claim globe has. Not it all turns together and conserves momentum. You won't see any drift. There's nothing to see here. That's an anti-flat Earth claim. So when we get that anti-flat Earth, conservation of momentum claim, we'll just point out, well, you're basically fighting against the globe claim then. Bugger off and go and defend your anti-flat Earth claim against globe believers. Tell the globe believers that you shouldn't see anything. There shouldn't be a 15 degrees an hour drift. Earth isn't turning beneath stuff to cause Coriolis effect. Go tell them, because I don't care. It's not my claim. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Hang on, Nathan. Hang on. Let's go back. Why did they put an X, as you point out, on all their illustrations? What is the X there for? What is that marking in their paradigm?
In the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, the X marks a horizon that physically blocks things.
Right. So how did they know to put it there?
It's based on the geometry of an Earth radius 3959. That's the tangent point.
They
Exactly.
calculated it.
So you've got the observer's height in feet, and you can basically derive where that tangent point will be with a straight line to the geometric sphere edge.
Right. So it's based on the 3959 and the presupposition that you live on a sphere, correct?
Yeah, and at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet will lay the geometric physical sphere edge horizon. That's their geometry.
So, correct. So then when you say to a baller or an anti-flat earther, is the horizon the beginning of Earth curve? Or put it any way you like. Is the horizon Earth curve? Does that curve you talk about, where does that start? They're backtracking on all that. So that means they're backtracking on the 3959, which means they're backtracking on the X, which means they got no X. It's all been a model, and it's all been a calculation, but it doesn't exist in reality.
Well, the actual geometric horizon is where it blocks things, but yeah, for some reason, visually, it doesn't always work out, right? Because of optics complications, blah, 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 terrestrial refraction or something. I know it requires R. But yeah, so the actual visible geometric horizon doesn't really match the calculated geometric horizon. Doesn't mean that still the horizon doesn't block things behind it, though.
Hold on a second. It's got to be physical, though. I'm looking across my table at a chair, and it's blocking something in my view because that chair is physical. So where is this physical geometric horizon that blocks things?
How do you
Maybe in the
prove?
distance.
How do you prove that it goes behind it? Because when I look at it, it seems like things are going into the horizon, not behind the horizon.
Yeah, meanwhile, we only have one horizon. And the horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is physical and geometric. The horizon we see in reality is not geometric and is not physical.
But still blocks things behind it.
It
Sorry,
can't block
stop.
things if it's non-existent, Arwin. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. Therefore, something that only exists in maths isn't ever going to be physically blocking anything ever.
Well, it may appear that way, but in
All right,
reality,
No,
things
no,
do
no,
still
let him-
disappear.
Let him go. He's wrong again. Not appear that way, is depicted that way. So when you depict a geometric horizon that only exists in the maths, it is depicted without perspective in orthographic view. That would be side profile to the observation it's being compared or calculated for. Therefore, you see the side of your own head and the side of the target you're observing, as opposed to the photograph being analysed and put through the calculations, which will have a perspective view that does not include the side of your own head, and an omission of perspective in the mathematics. So it's not what appears. We only have one horizon, and the horizon that appears is not geometric or physical. The horizon that is depicted in their maths is physical and geometric and capable of a tangent being drawn to it. Our horizon in reality is not. The Earth has no sphere edge for a horizon. Earth curve is not represented at the horizon. The horizon is not Earth curve.
Black Swan, baby.
Hey, Arwen, can you do a right angle from 3,000 miles or 4,000 miles with a sextant? Can you do a right angle? Can you achieve a right angle with a sextant if the horizon is one object and the other one is the sun? Can you have two straight lines that covers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 miles and still say it's curved?
Of course, you could say that.
Yeah, but the right angle, you know what a right angle is?
Yeah, my
Can
answer
that
is
ever-
yes. Of
Okay,
course, you
good.
could say that.
Can you function on a curved surface and say you still have a right angle, or do you need two straight lines for a right angle?
I don't know if you could function on it, but you could definitely say that it works.
Don't avoid my question.
I'm not.
I'm not saying say it. Can you achieve it in reality? Yes or no?
I don't know.
No, you need two straight lines to form an angle. You can't do it with a curved bottom.
Okay.
Good dog. Good dog.
Yeah, the Black Swan killed everything. It's over.
Shout out to Colin Dresser, who says with his super chat, Danny Jones, Hope Police, wants to join. Can we let him spew his nonsense for a few? Is the Discord server full? Thank you for the super chat, by the way, Colin Dresser. Not often people pay to have somebody else join, but there we go. Thank you very much all the same. Really appreciate the support. Somebody will have to bail to make space. 13 people are in the Discord server, so anybody who's not particularly keen on talking today, if you bail, there'll be a gap open for this person who wants to join. Danny Jones.
Oh, I'd love to hear from Danny Jones. Somebody drop out.
If they join the after show voice chat, one of the moderators can bump them in.
Or someone can just bugger off. It's up to you, but there's no obligation. You don't have to leave. It's entirely up to you. Thanks
Good morning,
again for the super
Chocolate.
chat. Did we have anything more on Earth Curve? Sextant
Come on,
use,
guys.
navigation. Hey, Chocolate.
Yeah, it's measured flat, so it's not measured curved.
To measure it curved, John, what would you require?
A tangent to the horizon.
And their tangent to their horizon is based on what now?
The horizon being geometric.
Radius.
Any evidence to the R value? Earth radius.
None.
Do I need to pull out the same old story again?
What's the same old story? I didn't know we had a same old
Equating
story.
length.
Go on.
I don't know. I'm starting to tire myself out as Baldwin now. I'm having to repeat it over and over again because you keep forgetting.
Don't be Baldwin. Shout out to
Did we
Gordon.
derive it from the celestial bodies?
Derive what?
Yeah.
The imaginary line,
The
the
R
horizon.
value.
He's bumping me already. Derive what? The imaginary line horizon? Horizon. Equator?
Yes.
Yes. Shout out to Godzilla37. 5 years later, and finally, Danny, the first baller ever with a radius measurement. The wait is over, folks. Thank you very much for the super chat, Godzilla.
Well, where is he? I thought he was going to join.
Nobody's jumped out.
Come on, somebody jump out. If you're not participating in Discord, somebody step away.
There you go.
Well, I
Somebody-
can move anybody in. I just told them I
Somebody's
can move
got
them
a
into.
radius measurement.
Hold on.
Really?
Hello. Hold on. Who is it just talking? Was it Steve?
Yeah, I was just letting anybody know if they move in. I can move them into the room, so it's not. All they got to do is move in here, and I'll move them in.
I'm sure that makes sense to any Discord users. I wouldn't have the vaguest clue what to do based on that description, but that's all good. I'm not going to ask you to explain it. There's a gap anyway, so just click the link below in the info box if you're that guy, whoever you... I've forgotten the guy's name already, and I don't really care. But if he joins, great. We'll hear evidence for our...
They just have to join the queue part, and then the mod will move them down.
I see. Fair enough. Live stream queue. Gotcha.
Come on, Danny Jones. We're waiting for you.
I'm not. I couldn't care less.
I'm
Anytime.
salivating.
Yes, you guys
I
are very
want
keen, as always.
Well,
Also-
Baldwin just got tired. We need Danny Jones now.
Hold
Just
on,
one-
Nathan, you're funny because you say that, and when they get on, you just hammer them, which I love.
Yeah, that is kind of the show that I run, though, Neil. That is what we do here. We debate flat Earth.
No, but the way you say it, like you don't care, but then you come on, when they get on, then you hammer them. Like the other day when you said, I'm out, but you were back in. You were out, then you were back in. Very, very amusing.
Don't highlight what I do for dramatic effect, Neil. You're ruining everything.
Sorry.
I would like to point out that, it's Nathan's show, and when they come here and they act like he's being rude, they're the ones coming into someone else's house and spouting nonsense that they can't back up.
I've got, since growing a couple more thousand subscribers, obviously there's lots of new people hanging around in the comments section, and I've been getting some really nice comments from people saying, yeah, I've just studied a bit of this and gone back through a few of the old debates, and from what I can conclude, these people are pricks, and the treatment they get is absolutely deserving based on their behaviour. and it's not like it happens immediately. It's not like you come in and say you're a baller and just get abuse. So, there's been a few people that have said that in a roundabout way in various different ways, actually, but similar sort of tone to say, yeah, actually, if you spend any significant amount of time watching Flat Earth debate, you'll realise that I'm not just some unreasonable prick that immediately shouts at people with a ball belief. On the contrary, typically we do get to hear the entirety of their claim, and then normally what will happen is, upon rebuttal from me or anybody else trying to be put to them, that's when the chaos begins. In other words, they're happy when they're putting their crap across, but as soon as it's challenged, they want to interrupt immediately, normally multiple times. Anyway, hey, Adam, how's it going?
Not bad. Afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, good to have you.
Hello.
What's up, Adam?
It's a great word, chaos.
I'll tell you what isn't a great word. Structural.
Oh boy, you were going
There
at
we
it
go.
yesterday, huh?
That's fair enough.
Wow.
I actually love those kind of discussions, Neil. So when it comes to shows like yesterday, I enjoyed it. I kept the show open an extra hour, you'll notice. There was no fundies, yet the show went on quite a significant time longer than usual. Well, the reason behind that is because typically when there's no ballers around, we actually have the discussions that I actually want to have. In other words, obviously the door is still open and any old wanker can just burst their way in at any moment, which they do, right? But in the meantime, right, we're all good friends sat around talking about the bit of this subject that hopefully is fascinating, the bits that we don't know. So what don't we know? Well, we don't know how the second law of thermodynamics has as a cause, for instance. We don't know what the sky is. We don't know what the lights in the sky are. So there's quite a lot of things that we can investigate and discuss. And that sort of discussion usually leads to things being discovered. People actually doing something about it. Yes, you can sit around. Here we go. Go on, Paul. Yeah, I think he was just joining with his mic wide open. It's all good.
Yeah, I missed it yesterday because I was in traffic court. So I caught when you ended the show, they were still going at it, Adam and Brian and Owen. It was good though. I enjoyed it.
It expands the
Dude, that
understanding.
went on for an hour.
Yeah, but it expands the understanding of people's position when it comes to things like gravity. So if people have a misapprehension about what gravity is, and then you hear a really in-depth discussion about describing a second-order entropic effect, relative density disequilibrium in this instance, and you just sit and listen to that stuff, you realise, number one, with hopefully me concisely saying the whole time, look, we don't know the cause of this, that we don't know the cause, but ultimately that doesn't mean we're not intrigued. And when things are descriptively put incorrectly, as I think I hope Brian doesn't hear this and get really offended. I'm in total agreement with Adam. The word structure is not applicable, and Brian wants to apply it. It's like, well, you can do whatever you like, but I'm still going to challenge you if I don't agree, and that's precisely what Adam did. And, that's worthy discussion that expands your understanding and corrects people's misunderstanding. That's so useful. Contrast that with, 20 minutes of a fundy talking through me trying to actually concisely summarise their point, without them even letting me summarise it before refuting it. That is considerably more entertaining for a lot of the audience, but it doesn't really take you anywhere. 9 times out of 10, you're just appealing to somebody to understand and appreciate an argument that a good chunk of the audience do actually understand anyway. They just want to hear the fundy have it actually put to them and see them squirm. Yeah, I get it. That's also educational, but I would say in percentage terms, it's more on the side of entertaining, because if you're a fan of the show and you've watched for a while, you'll get a lot of these arguments just from us chit-chatting away. And Baldwin, again, it gets a lot of crap, but without Baldwin, we wouldn't have this constant summary of the fundy position that gets put back to us. And that's also very, very useful. You've got a well-oiled machine here. Arwen's part of that.
Yeah, and I love doing it, actually.
Check it out. 2 minutes ago, I hate you, Baldwin. Now, I love Baldwin.
He just said it was tiring.
Dude, he had to wait for like 25 years, okay?
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
Well,
Did you
first
say
you have to
he,
figure out what it is,
talking
and
about
then maybe.
Baldwin in the third person?
Yeah, he does that.
It's like the Queen, isn't it?
Hey, dude, sometimes Baldwin talks about himself, and sometimes Arwin talks about Baldwin. Sometimes Baldwin talks about Arwin, but that's too confusing to recognize.
Is there any mathematical evidence for gravity now? Because I'm yet to see that now.
You're saying in both regards they need a radius, therefore their mathematical description falls apart also with the failure of their geometry.
Yep, that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never going to ask the question. No offence. I'm not going to say any mathematical evidence of gravity because obviously that opens the door for people to assume that they've got an Einsteinian or a Newtonian explanation. Correction, Reverend John Michel, CV Boys, Cavendish gravity, as opposed to Newton, who did not want it ascribed to him.
Also imply that maths is somehow accepted as evidence.
Precisely.
Well, the measurements is what's accepted as evidence, but, you know, they're using a mathematical description after they take a measurement of, you know, dropping something that they've picked up. Well, their description of what is happening is incorrect because there's no R value.
Yeah, can't have G without R. And the assumption that is justifiable by them in rebuttal is that, no, at rest, it's got a force applied of 1G. Begging the question. Automatically assume the force is in place with nothing in motion. And then taking it out of equilibrium, in reality, for them, putting it into free fall is actually putting it into a zero state. 0G is falling. Perpetually falling around a presupposition of a sphere Earth is described as an orbit. Merely a begging the question fallacy. What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? Asked because the sphere Earth claims they have science.
Oh, that's great. After that silence during the housekeeping question of gravity, I'll say black holes. Right?
What's a black hole?
It's black. Oh, what is it? What is it? Presupposedly, it's presupposedly a lot of mass that's being subjected to so much gravity because of its mass that it's going to implode matter and actually draw away light. So
I thought you need an R for gravity. You have no R value.
Where's this happening, Arwin?
Billions and billions of miles away.
Are you sure? You sure it's not happening in a pseudo-Ramonian geometry known as force space?
No, they saw it one time. This black blip with
So
the
you
light background.
you described having quite a lot of gravity affecting this, and that gravity is the bending of pseudo-Ramonian force space in this description, Arwin. So where are you gonna go now, Baldwin?
Well, it's black, isn't it?
Sorry,
So,
where's this happening again?
What else is going to be strong enough to
Let's not
pull
skirt
the
this
light
question.
away?
Where's this happening again? Let's go a bit higher pitched. Where's this happening again?
Billions of miles away in outer space.
In pseudo-Ramonian force space, not in outer space. Right? What they describe with pseudo-force space geometry is this bending space-time you're describing. So this is happening in pseudo-force space, Arwin.
Well, I don't know about the pseudo force space, but I don't know anything else. I could not imagine anything else that would be strong enough to pull light away, right?
Where's this happening again? Where is this happening? In pseudo-force space, Arwin?
No.
Yes.
No, we can see it.
What?
It's black.
Bending space-time? The cause of this, according to you, a lot of gravity is happening. A lot of bending space-time is happening. That's this Einsteinian description of black holes. So, show me space-time, then show me it bending. Go, let's see it.
Can I
show me how the bending of space-time is going to pull light away? You know?
I need to see it first before you tell me what it does.
Well, somebody look up the picture.
Well, that's what I wanted to address, Arwin. You say it's black, and if I could quote Holly, well, the thing about a black hole is its main distinguishing feature is it's black. And the thing about space, the color of space, your basic space color is it's black. So how do you see it?
Because another sun is behind it.
Well, wouldn't it eat all the light from the other sun?
Yes, except
You
for
wouldn't see it then.
except for the light that does manage to get around it.
And it gets around it because
Because it is too distant from the pull of the gravity.
bendy space
So it's
time,
able to
Arwin. That's right,
escape.
bendy. Yeah, bendy space time. Yeah. Where's that happening again? Bendy space time?
Well, you could see it in the picture.
No. That's you superimposing a mathematical description in Einsteinian pseudo-Ramonian for space onto something that you're claiming is a phenomena that matches with that maths. That's not a force or bendy space-time that you're showing me. That's a circular reasoning begging the question fallacy where you say this light because gravity and gravity because this light.
Yes.
No, it's happening in pseudo-force space. This is a place that isn't real. This is a description in maths.
Yeah, but we could see it. It was photographed. So it's not just pseudo-Ramonian force space. It actually happens in reality because we got a picture of it.
Okay, let's
So
just
you've
take.
got a picture of
Go on, Adam.
you've got a picture of space-time imploding on itself. That's what you've got a picture, or have you just got something black on a black background?
But the space-time thing is only a description, right? It's a mathematical description.
That's
But
our
we got
argument.
A picture of it, so it's real. It's real. It's not just in a mathematical realm. It's real because we got a picture.
It's an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy, right? So you're saying, if bending space-time, that's your begging the question fallacy. That's your P statement. If bendy space-time, then Q, phenomena of donut, light, and sky. Donut, light, and sky, therefore bendy space-time. That's what you're doing.
Well, sure. You know, we at least got something in the real world. We got a real picture. So, yeah, why not draw in the pseudo-Ramonian force space? At least
Okay,
we got
I'll
some
tell you.
solid evidence.
Sure. So if I come up with a description that's called hexadecimal space-time, just for the sake of argument, and I say, Arwin, I have described this light in the sky that's very bright, brighter than the other stars, in fact. And in my hexadecimal maths, that brighter light is described as a white hole. Now, look, Arwin, there's that brighter light. Therefore, it's a hexadecimally described white hole, Arwin. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand. It sounds like a valid argument. I would...
So my logical fallacy sounds totally reasonable, even though I'm using it to contrast your logical fallacy, and it's fallacious. No, both my example and your fallacious example do not verify hexadecimal space-time or pseudo-4 space.
But it could.
No, it couldn't.
Why not?
Because it's a logical fallacy. The one doesn't follow the other. Just because your maths doesn't mean light in sky is your maths. Just because light in sky doesn't mean your maths if you reverse it. If P then Q, Q therefore P. If my maths therefore light in sky, oh look, light in sky therefore my maths.
But if the calculations works out, then why not?
Work, good word. Where's it doing the work for the black hole, Arwin? What work's being done by this abstraction, this description, this mathematics? What work can it possibly do, Arwin? When it's merely an abstract description, it doesn't do any work. It's just maths.
Now, we do the work using math in our minds, right?
Right, so calculating how much fuel it will take to run a tractor is very different to running a tractor, Arwin. So when you say, here's the maths for how much fuel, it works. Why the hell isn't the field been ploughed? The maths worked, didn't it? We knew exactly how much fuel it would take. Yeah, but the maths itself doesn't do any work, Arwin.
I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, where's this
The
happening? It's happening in pseudo-4 space, a made-up place that doesn't exist, that is merely a description in mathematics. And the segue, the assertion, the trick by any fundy who's been brainwashed to believe that gravity is some sort of force that can cause things and do work, is that this mathematics causes things, and it does not.
Yeah, but you still got the picture, though.
Well, back to
Can
the
you see
affirming the
screen,
consequent.
Owen?
No, we don't need it 4 more times. Go ahead, Adam.
I'm just on screen. I wonder if you could just point out for me. I've got a black hole in space on screen. Look, can you show me where the black hole is?
It's over there.
Yeah.
Right, the thing about a black hole, Arwin, the main defining feature of a black hole is that it's black. And the thing about space, your basic space color, the color of space is that it's black.
Yeah, but dude, we don't have to literally see the sun to know it's there, right? It could be behind a cloud. You can't even have a clue as to where it is, but we know it's there because that's how it happens, right? So yeah, you can see a black hole at times.
So when you say you can
I've seen
see
the sun.
a black hole, you don't mean you can actually see a black hole, do you? By that definition, because there's nothing to see because all the light's sucked into it.
Right, but you see
So-
the contrast of it.
How do you distinguish that patch where there's no light coming from it from a ordinary bit of space which has got no light coming from it?
Well, you just wait until a star moves behind it in angular relation to you as the observer, and then you might see the contrast.
Got you. I take it back. So if star disappears, then black hole.
Well, yes, if there's a persistence to it.
If stars persistently disappear, then black hole.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, there's a
Thanks,
problem.
Paul.
Now,
So,
why that wouldn't happen
one more thing.
with the moon, though,
One more
is
thing.
another matter.
One more thing. This tailed off any valid hypothesis from any field, astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, right? That was the question asked before this all kicked off. So you're describing a phenomena, are you not, Arwin?
A celestial phenomena, yes, I guess.
A phenomena nonetheless. So, if you're going to assert cause, there's a process for that, isn't there, Arwin?
What, you're going to make me do the scientific method now?
No, I'm saying that the reason we ask the question is because there's a lot of phenomena that occur. Let's just say for the sake of argument that I fall victim to your affirming the consequent if P then Q, if my maths then a black hole, and I accept it. Right, okay. So I now accept that your maths has a causal relationship with a phenomena in the light that is a light in the sky. Well, more fool me, because that light in the sky, a phenomena, has a means of validation of cause, and that would be the scientific method. That's its purpose, to elucidate the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena. So, if we've got a naturally occurring phenomena, what we need is hypothesis-based systematic experimentation. That would be science. So, if you're going to assert cause, I don't want to just sow story about the mathematics of pseudo-Riemannian 4-space time bending. I'd like to see a varied, assumed cause validated by experiment. That's what science does, validates the cause of effects. Here's an effect you're describing, let's see it validated with a cause.
Okay. Well, that's going to be a little difficult, though, because to actually experiment with a black hole, you'd have to get into reach of its gravitational pull, right? And that means
You don't use your bloody begging the question fallacy to justify why you can't experimentally validate your assumption in the first instance that all of these effects that are going to cause you problems to validate it are going to suddenly be presuppositional effects that you need to be scared of. So what are you going to do, waffle on about bloody event horizons? Oh no, I can't get near it to measure it, event horizon. What, the thing wrapped up in the entirety of the maths of Einstein and the extrapolations of Stephen Hawking? You've got to be having me on. I'm not going to just accept some extrapolation of the begging the question fallacy to justify why you can't experiment with it. Why is this phenomena suddenly problematic in that regard because you've assumed all these things about it? Not at all. I don't accept that. It's just a bloody lie. Or a lack thereof in this instance.
Well, sorry, it was the only thing I could think of to escape actually engaging in scientific method, which I find very tedious.
What, whack another
And it
layer of
wasn't gonna
storytelling
work
on
out
top?
Anyway.
Yeah, another layer of storytelling, whack straight on top of the original story layer. Original story layer, It's bending pseudo force space, causing light to bend around something. All right, where's this happening? Well, in my pseudo geometry, with a dimension that doesn't exist. All right. Oh, well, I see.
I was only following the standard playbook on how to deal with this, you know.
Indeed you do, Owen. Well-oiled machine, my friend. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there.
It is in this picture.
Next to the black hole.
No. Thank God, no.
Just to the right of the black hole.
I was going to object to the use of saying that the math works because the math has a M1 value in it that's not measured, so it doesn't work.
Well put. I'm glad you summarised with that. Where are you getting your M1 in your pseudo force space?
That I would object there. I wouldn't use the word works. The maths does work. It just isn't validatable in reality.
It works within that convention, right? Just doesn't, you can't apply that to reality, like the really is level.
So then how does it work?
It doesn't.
Convention.
In that convention, in math, on paper.
But not in reality.
5 ice creams.
So you're
Nope.
just gonna
You
have
ask
to
for
settle
10.
for the
Somebody's only
convention.
holding 5. You can only give them, in reality, 5 ice creams because that's all you're holding. On paper, the transaction can be completed with a minus figure at the end of it. So on maths, in that convention, you can give someone 10 ice creams when you've only got 5.
Yep.
I think practically, John was right with regards to the equation. It's the simple fact that whilst we can assume R, we aren't able to validate it. Therefore, the equation isn't validatable to reality until we can take the parameters that the equation uses and actually validate them.
Yeah, you need R first. Yeah, that's right.
I think if a baller wants to use the argument of ice creams, negative and positive, the argument's a bit of a rocky road for them, if you know what I mean.
Short
man,
pause.
always
Everyone
sprinkling
racks
his
their brain
puns.
for a pun to top that one, and no one comes up with it.
Oh, I was trying to, but I got brain freeze.
Same here. Oh, damn! Damn, that was excellent.
Hold on. Chocolate had a good one with sprinkling.
Well, I thought
Nah,
somebody
I got rumpus.
I thought somebody would scoop it up quicker, though.
As long as no one mentions
Yeah.
rocket lollies.
Chocolate ice cream for the win.
This is a Solero moment in the show, I would say.
Very good.
Didn't somebody have a radius or something they were going to come here with? What
Did
happened
that
to
dude
that?
join and I just miss him? I'll just check to see if everyone's off mute.
He's in Davy Jones's locker. He goes by Danny Jones. Come on, Danny boy.
He might have realized how important it was and then decided to just walk away.
Glitch effects. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good to have you.
Thanks, it's good to be here.
What's up, buddy?
Not much really, I just came here to listen.
Very cool.
Because you want to brush up your arguments against zealots who believe they're on a globe, or because you believe that we're all insane flat earthers who don't know what they're talking about?
No, I just came here to learn more about the flat earth perspective, just don't really understand it personally.
Oh, that's cool. Fair enough.
Why don't you try to... I guess you could start with just trying to understand your own perspective as far as your reality, how you experience the earth. Because we don't have any more claims other than the earth is what we experience it to be, right? Other than that, we don't make claims.
Well, how about we utilize perspective in our calculations of what the Earth's surface is like? How about
Perfect.
that?
So it's a good turn of phrase, the flat earth perspective. Well, not that we have any reason to compare any photography with perspective. We're not asserting any model that needs affirmation by way of that particular effect. However, it is effects that we can see in reality. However, in Earth curve maths, that effect is very much excluded from the mathematics that are compared to optical photography that has perspective in it. So my question is, did you appreciate that when using curve maths, they place the view that you see in a photograph side on so you can see the side of your own head? And that effectively removes perspective from Earth curve calculations. Were you aware of that?
I was not aware of that.
Indeed. As a result, we have fondly named the curve calculator, begging the question fallacy within itself, but the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, because it takes a view like this I have on my screen for my audience right now, things getting smaller into the distance, that would be an angular size reduction, and replaces them with feet and inches values that don't change with distance. So when you see the side of your own head in Earth curve maths and you're asked questions about how it works or shown how it works, you're shown with a building or a boat that's got a feet or meters value ascribed to it. So they'll say, this building's 200 meters tall. Why is the 50 meters missing from the bottom? And what that effectively does is removes perspective, because the building remains the same feet or meters value regardless of how far it is away. So it could be 1,000,000 miles away, miles too small to see, and your globe believer with his hijacking of perspective mathematics can still draw a straight line to it and say, why are so many meters missing off the bottom? So yeah, there's no perspective in Earth curve assertions. None.
I feel bad for people that come into this subject honestly and try to ask questions, because one of the Glober tactics is to pretend to be someone asking questions when all they want to do is chant their belief structures.
Go on tone. You can normally hear it in their voice when, I don't know, this guy doesn't have me on any sort of alert. So he's either so relaxed about doing that he's come across genuine, or I just misjudged him. If he launches into a fundamentalist chanting session, again, he'd have talked through me already, would he not? If he was one of them.
Yeah, that's why I said I kind of feel bad for him, because, you know, that's one of the things he's going to run into when he tries to ask questions.
Yeah, depending on who you ask, you might come across somebody that just wants you to believe in their model. In other words, they want to be the new guru, and you'll have to follow them and their model and their thoughts and feelings, and woe betide you if you disagree. Or,
is he still here?
I don't know, I'm talking to the audience. There's loads of other people that have been pulled off mute. Yeah, he's
No,
still here.
I'm still here.
Go on, 10th. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah. Listen, it's interesting because your curiosity is good here right now. Did you come to the show because the predominant worldview is that we live on the globe with a radius of 3959, and we're spinning at over 1,000 miles at the equator, and there's something to this thing called gravity? It's actually a force. Did you come here because that is in contrast to what you would think that a flat earther would say, and you want to know why we have a differing opinion or why we take the opposite side on those matters? What's your motivation?
Well, really, I just don't understand how you'd believe that we live on a flat Earth. That is, to my understanding, you believe it's not rotating at all.
Okay, so can I ask you a question?
Hold on, he's asking you. He says, do you not?
No, I know. I'm going to answer him with a question. That assumes he thinks we are rotating and that we're not flat. So can you please show me Earth-based Coriolis? That if you can prove to me the Earth is rotating, then you're going to win that point with me. Can you prove to me the Earth is rotating?
Do you understand what's just happened, Glitch?
Yeah, he's asked me a question. I'm just trying to think of how I could prove it to him, but I'm not really getting much.
Hold on. I just want to see if you appreciate that in this regard, there's a positive claim, and it's not ours. you know, in terms of spinning especially, you know, that's an outrageous claim that would need some sort of evidence to back it. And you're being asked, is there anything that you've got to back that claim, rather than saying, prove it isn't spinning?
Oh no, I didn't ask him to prove it. I just asked if he believed that's what it was.
Sure.
It's not a matter of belief. It's I know the Earth is not spinning because I know motion. I felt it in my life as a small child to my current age. The claim that the globe community has is that we are spinning, and I'd like to have some proof of that, or else that becomes a belief without proof. And isn't that where you find yourself, because you're having a hard time proving it?
That's actually a good point, yeah. But one question: what about when you put a gyroscope on the ground? You can see it over time. It rotates at 15 degrees an hour.
Well, can I ask you a question again on that?
No.
Is the Earth rotating, or is the Earth not rotating in your belief?
Yeah, the Earth's rotating.
Okay, if I get off the Earth, is the Earth still rotating, or does the Earth not rotate if I leave the Earth, say in a hot air balloon or helicopter or something that gets me off the surface?
No, it still rotates.
Okay, so if I get up in a hot air balloon and it's hovering, or a helicopter, shouldn't the Earth rotate underneath me and the destination come to me?
Well, no, because
Why
when you
not?
leave the Earth, you've still got the momentum with you that was imparted to you by the Earth, so you're spinning with it.
So the gyro
So if I
maintains that as well then? So when you say the gyro's got Earth turning beneath it, what are you talking about? Does it not maintain the momentum? What are you talking about?
I got nothing to say to that.
But you're claiming that Earth turns beneath the gyro. Your original opening statement is to say Earth turns beneath the gyro. You've just affirmed with 10th Man that you understand and appreciate that Earth would continue to turn underneath. He gives you an example of a hot air balloon and says, should Earth not turn underneath then, if it's turning underneath as you claim it should and will? And you've said you've got proof of it with a gyro. So according to your claim, Earth's going to turn beneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. That's Coriolis deflection. The effect is only observed if you turn underneath stuff. So for us to have this effect, you're claiming with the gyro, that's Coriolis deflection, we must see it in the hot air balloon. And you're saying, no, conserving momentum. It's like, well, that flies in the face of the Coriolis claim, that we'll see it drift. If it conserves momentum, we don't see Coriolis.
Yeah, it's a good point. I've got nothing to say back to that. I have no rebuttal. I'll have to do some more research and see if I can think of anything to go against that.
But then we're not spinning. The claim to prove we're spinning is that we'll see things drift at 15 degrees an hour, like a gyro, like a pendulum, like a bullet or a football. They're claimed to have Earth turn beneath them. That's the claim that is supposed to prove we spin. But we just show you a hot air balloon and that's not happening. It's in the air for a long time. It's not attached anymore, like bullets and footballs and pendulums and gyros. Separate reference frames, right? But then when a hot air balloon goes up, suddenly it's conserving the momentum. That makes no sense, because the bullet would conserve momentum, and the football would conserve momentum, and the gyro would conserve momentum, and the pendulum would conserve momentum. You know, you're flying in the face of the claim that Earth turns beneath stuff. So Earth's not spinning because we don't see that effect. It would be really obvious in a hot air balloon. It would just go up and the next continent along would come to it. It doesn't, because we're not spinning.
Can I have a follow-up with him on that topic? So if you get up in a hot air balloon at the equator, where it's spinning over 1,000 miles per hour, what's the momentum of that hot air balloon once it leaves the Earth?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, what's the speed of the Earth?
It's rotating at 1,000 miles per hour.
Okay, you ever fallen off a moving bicycle or skateboard? You know what happens?
You fall down, you hit the ground.
Just like vertically direct, or do you retain some momentum because you're going at a certain speed and then you somehow get off of it, and or you're not retaining that momentum as you fall and you go into
Yeah,
really bad roll.
yeah, he would retain the momentum.
So what would happen to that hot air balloon if it left the Earth at 1,000 miles per hour?
It would retain the momentum.
What would happen to it?
It would move with the Earth at 1,000 miles per hour.
No. It just left the Earth. The Earth is moving at 1,000 miles an hour. It leaves the Earth. What's happening to it? If it's retaining the momentum, what's happening to it?
I don't understand.
He's asking you to clarify your position. So your rebuttal initially was to say the hot air balloon retains the momentum, presumably, when putting words in your mouth, of the spin of the Earth that you assume. So he's saying, okay, what's it going to do then? That's what you said, retains momentum. However, I don't know why Tent's done that. We've already covered this, right? Earth's supposed to turn underneath the hot air balloon, and from the ground, we're supposed to see the hot air balloon move away in a curved trajectory because it's claimed we're turning beneath it. That's the only way we get to see the effect. So to have Coriolis, we must be turning underneath the hot air balloon, and we don't. So we don't have the effect. We don't have proof we spin. The rebuttal that it conserves momentum is an anti-flat Earth claim that is essentially saying we won't see any drift. We won't see 15 degrees an hour. It'll track along with the Earth. So what, nothing to see then? No 15 degrees an hour drift as claimed with your gyro. So you're fighting against the claim that we're supposed to see drift on a globe. That's the end of the argument.
I would like to point out to, I'd like to point out to him that the, whether the Earth's spinning or the Earth isn't spinning, it's got the Earth as a ball in the question itself, because you have a radius that you're using for the axis of this spin. But we don't experience a radius. The Earth is measured flat.
So we're coming up to the end of this live show, but I'm actually going to extend this live show a little bit, just so I can do a little bit of extra e-begging. Tough times, man, tough times. Anyway, so there's going to be a little bit of a continuation to this live show. I know people are probably expecting me to round out, but no, I'm going to keep the show going. That, and this is the highest audience I've had in a considerable amount of time. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's very hot. Who knows? 172 people watching at the moment, which is a very good number. So good to have you, everyone in the live audience. Smash the super chat and PayPal link to support this channel. I need it more than ever. I'll bore you in the after show and pre-show. But yeah, this dude that's here now, Glitch, are you happy to move on from curvature? From axial rotation, my bad?
Yeah, I'm happy to move on.
Cool. At the end of the summary for axial rotation, John pointed out that the assertion in the first instance is going to have a radian value in terms of the assertion of the rotation. And you'd need a radius value to acquire that. And we've debunked the mathematics that I described as showing you the side of your own head and giving you perspective omitting feet or meters values that don't change with distance for targets. Well, that very same mathematics to assert those feet and inches values that don't change with distance being hidden by Earth curve, the Earth curve itself has an R value that we've debunked based on imagery that shows that the Earth curve, that would be the horizon in those maths, is beyond where it can be physically. So physically incapable of being Earth curve anymore. Or to summarise, because that was quite a lot of information all at once, we've debunked the assertion that the horizon is Earth curve. Again, were you aware that the horizon, assumed to be Earth curve if you're a person on a globe, has been debunked as Earth curve? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, so we only have one horizon. And the geometric horizon, that's Earth curve, only exists in Earth curve maths. It does not exist in physical reality. Now, that's a statement from a globe defender when defending his globe maths. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths, and the geometric horizon is Earth curve. In reality, we have a position where the sky appears to meet the land or sea, not a physical Earth curve edge. We've debunked that. Just so you know.
Can you explain how we debunked it, Nathan? Maybe he does not know.
I can rattle off the black swan argument. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance measurement to that horizon, that's Earth curve, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. So in the Earth curve maths, when you move your elevation up and down and it changes the tangent point, that's the 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet bit. Now the distance to the geometric horizon, if it were one, has been breached by images that are labelled the black swan. That is to say that they show beyond all certitude that the horizon is beyond those physical limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959 depicted in the mathematics. Therefore, the horizon's not Earth curve, and you can't acquire an R value for Earth curve. Thank you for presenting, Adam. So we've debunked Earth curve, the horizon, and the horizon is not Earth curve. On screen now for my audience, Black Swan. Bye-bye, ball. Platform habitat 9.41 miles and platform hill house at 6.21 miles. The geometric horizon, if we had one, would be at 1.2 miles. That's before the frame of this picture. It would be obscuring things into the distance with its physicality. And in this image, the horizon, we've only got one, is beyond 10 miles. Beyond platform habitat at 9.41 miles. So the horizon is not an Earth curve edge as depicted in the maths. It's beyond those limitations by a massive margin. So we don't have a physical Earth curve edge for a horizon. This image debunks it. We only need one, because as soon as you're beyond the limitations of a physical geometric sphere edge, that's game over. Can't be beyond a physical rock's limitations.
So, Nathan, you're saying that one of those platforms are 9.41 miles and the other one is 6.21 miles, and the horizon is behind that?
Yes. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve.
You understand that, Glitch?
Yeah, I understand that.
So,
Well, that
go on, John.
I was going to say this is the knife edge. You know, this is where in his mind he'll have to make a decision whether he's going to be anti-flat Earth or believe in a globe. You know, this is where the decision comes down to: are you going to accept that what we measure is flat, or are you going to believe that it's curving somewhere that you can't measure?
John, he may not know
No.
your past, how you were once a ball believer, and the lack of the measurement caused you to change your mind. You mind sharing that in another 30 seconds for him?
Well, yeah, like I thought we were measuring Earth curve with that geometry. You know, I thought that it was locally flat, but you know, it was a ball because the horizon was a tangent point, and we could measure, you know, geometry. But we don't. It's not. All we have is the measurements of it flat.
Indeed. So without Earth curve, that would be a horizon to claim blocks, boats and buildings. Ironic, as the false dichotomy flat Earth society assertion is to say that we have boats falling over the edge, when in reality Earth curve mathematics has boats falling over an Earth curve horizon edge. And then the question is asked, why are so many feet and inches missing? Answer, because it's gone over the Earth curve edge. No, the horizon is not Earth curve. It has been debunked. All bets are therefore off as far as being on a sphere. There is no sphere beneath your feet in terms of what you measure, in terms of what you navigate, in terms of what you observe. It is obviously flat. Just one more thing
How
for
do you
you.
feel about that?
No, I don't care about how it feels. Last but not by no means least, because we didn't cover it in housekeeping. Were you under the impression, Glitch, that there is an area above your head that is a vacuum where they travel to lights in the sky?
Are you talking about space? Because yes, I believe in that.
Okay. Are you familiar with entropic law or the second law of thermodynamics? It's okay if you're not.
I'm vaguely familiar, but not too much.
Okay. If you had a gas canister in your hand right now and you chopped it in half with a samurai sword, would you understand and appreciate that the gas would not remain in the shape of the container that it was in? It would merely fill the available volume it had to fill. In other words, disperse into the room. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand that.
So do you also appreciate that gas, by nature, expands to fill any volume it has to fill?
Yes.
Do you appreciate that if the sky was a vacuum, it would be an area for gas to fill?
Yeah.
So if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill that space and we would all be dead. The sky vacuum is fake. Outer space is not real.
He's taking it better than I would have.
He could be crying on the other end of the mic for all I know. I don't know. I was taking it.
No, that was put so concise that you can't do anything but think about it.
You
I
would
raged
never
for
be able
3
to
years over
develop a
this.
gas pressure atmosphere in the first place.
It's a good question, Rams. Can you repeat that, please?
You would never be able to develop the atmosphere in the first place.
So, Glitch, do you understand what Rams has just said?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to develop an atmosphere because all the particles would just fly out.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
He didn't say atmosphere, he said pressure. So, or did you? I hope I haven't corrected that incorrectly. Anyway, either way, if he did or he didn't, atmosphere is part of the language used to effectively brainwash you into sphere assumptions at every corner. That's a bit of a bad turn of phrase. Sphere assumptions at every corner. I've done it now, so I'll keep with it. Anyway, atmo, that's air. Sphere, that's a fundamentalist religious presupposition that air takes the shape of a sphere rather than filling its containment. So air isn't sphere-shaped. Gas inherently has no shape. It takes the shape of its container. So to say that atmosphere is to say the sphere-shaped air does blah, blah, blah. And there's all sorts of atmospheric laws. Because atmosphere isn't something that's real, it's something that only exists in a model. The heliocentric model with pseudo-geometry and air in a sphere in a vacuum, not dispersing. Just to finish this point off. The dispersion of gas into an availability of volume is described with something called the second law of thermodynamics. That's an entropy increase, that description of gas filling space. Calculable, if you will, with the number of available microstates in what would be 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum if we had a sky vacuum. So we could calculate how it would fill the space with entropic effects, i.e. dispersion. And the fact that we have gas to breathe means that is not an available space for gas to fill. It would fill it. So space is fake. Further to that, every claim from that region, that would be outer space, a sky vacuum, is automatically fake. So including, but not limited to, the horizon being a bendy, also debunked at ground level, Earth curve edge that you can see from quote-unquote Narnia, space, a place that isn't real, they're all debunked. So the same applies on the ground. If Earth's a sphere radius 3959, every distance to horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That applies when they show you fake images of Earth from space. That's just a horizon they're showing you. And we've debunked that as Earth curve. But the area they're claiming to take that fake Earth curve non-physical horizon from is also a fake place. So there's no trips to measure the vastness of the universe. There's no Voyager. There's no trips to the moon. There's no trips to the sun. There's no space. Just so you know.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Hello, world. Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I know that you mentioned that like gas is regenerated at the surface of the Earth, right? And so I know also that when you go hiking, like at high altitudes, you say that the Earth the air that you breathe is thinner, right? Is that true?
Yeah.
So I guess my question is like as you go higher up, since the gas is regenerated at the surface, there's less of it as you go high, and so does it just keep getting thinner as you go up? Is it like really thin at some point? Is that like where the firmament is? Is where in the air is very thin?
Well, that's what we observe. You've already answered your own question in that regard.
Oh yeah. So like if it gets really thin, could there be a point where there's like almost no air, no gas?
Well, like a
And maybe
vacuum.
that could help the firmament stay. Well, I was saying that the firmament could be more stable at that point because then you wouldn't have to account for like corrosion and things like that. I don't know if this is making sense. I'm just kind of
Not
thinking
really.
about how
I mean,
this thing
I
works.
don't know is the answer. I don't know what the containment is. I just know that we have gas pressure, and to have gas pressure, we must have containment. So I'm sorry I can't give you a better answer. You're saying firmament. I don't know what that is, and I don't ascribe to any firmament. I just know that we've got gas pressure, therefore we've got to have containment, or we wouldn't have the gas pressure.
I'm silent.
Neil telling us
Yes,
that
Yeah,
his
okay. I think
Neil telling us he's
sorry,
silent.
I-
His acknowledgement that
Have
he
you
hasn't stepped in and tried to chant about the firmament that he believes in also.
Have you ever observed a bottle garden?
I think that's directed at you, hello world.
what kind of garden?
It's called a bottle garden. You can look it up. I've seen some where the guy has had it going for over 20 plus years. So it's a big bottle. I mean, really big. He's put soils in there, different types of vegetation, and he puts a big old cap on the top, a cork or something to create the container. And then this bottle garden is allowed to go through the same things we experience, evening, morning, sunlight, all that stuff, but it's isolated in this bottle. Everything's in the bottle. And it steams up, it rains in there, it's growing and it's flourishing, but it's all contained. So here we got a dynamic system on the earth where the gas is produced at the ground level through the plants and everything else. And the best question is the one that I love the best about this is where'd you get the gas pressure in the first place? Not so much how thin does it get near the firmament, it's how'd you achieve it in the first place?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I've actually heard of these. I heard of some that, you can have like a shrimp or something, right? In a ball, right? It's a shrimp in the water in the ball and it kind of survives and things like that with the plankton and things like that. I think that's kind of the same thing you're talking about. I guess the firmament that I was describing, I think relates to the skylights, right? We if we look at the night sky, we see skylights. You can observe them moving. If you
Where'd
look
you
at the
get
sky long enough.
where'd you get
Hold on, go ahead. Does that mean firmament though?
I guess I'm not sure. I think I had heard a lot of models for flat Earth that have some kind of dome structure, but I think that it's not really known. But I think what is known is that we can see the skylights move across as we look at the night sky.
Yeah.
Do we see them move?
Yeah, we can describe what we see. But in terms of what is the container, so on screen now we've got Spaceballs version of their dome around a sphere Earth, right, to stop the vacuum getting the gas. Yeah, how ironic. Well, that, as described as a glass dome around something, I can't give you that answer. Now, there's plenty of people who have a biblical understanding of the description thereof when it comes to the Bible. And fine, more power to you. But the honest answer, sorry, Tenth and Neil, if you find this offensive, is you don't know. Now, you might think you know, and you might think you've got a description from the Bible, but you don't know. What you do know is you're breathing. And therefore, there is definitely containment. What that is, I don't know.
Well, I would agree, but disagree at the same time, because he mentioned firmament. I'm wondering where he got the word firmament, and does he know that it's a biblical reference? So if I could just go with him, I want to know what he thinks about that.
Right. I
So
think
if it's
I meant firmament in the sense that it is a way to, as a description of a container, I suppose. It's like an example of a container, something that
yeah,
maintains the
exactly.
I
opposite
don't
side.
think he was
There's the
referring
earth
to like
side is
Bible
one side of the
wise.
container, and then there's like the opposite side, which would be the firmament.
No, I'm actually going there, chocolate, with him. It is a container of some kind, and it is referenced in the Bible. But what shape it is, I don't know. All I know is it contains. What's it containing? Well, we can't have gas pressure without containment, so ideally, it's probably working to affect that. But then if you say, what does the Bible say about the stars and the moon and the sun? Well, that wasn't created until the fourth day. The firmament was created on the second day. And the biblical record for the sun, the moon, and the stars was created on the fourth day and put inside the firmament. Now, inside the firmament obviously could mean many things, but it's definitely not outside the firmament. And we have the sun transiting, so the sun is moving because the earth is not spinning. But what happens to the stars?
Yeah, I think maybe that's like one area I was wondering is the skylights. I believe in some models are on the container that is not the Earth, right? So you have the Earth side, and then you have the container side, and the skylights are on the container, or I think Mark Sargent describes it as a almost as a screen maybe or some display. But I was wondering maybe if the skylight, if watching the skylights could be used to show the shape of the container.
No. So I've discussed this with Mark Sargent. It's a tool used to get somebody who's in a paradigm that's been rooted in their brain since basically birth to have a way of visualizing, conceptualizing a completely paradigm-changing idea of how the world might be, and a way of encompassing that with what I think are very poor, not Mark's fault, explanations for some of the questions that might arise immediately, and immediately stand in your way or make you into an anti-flat earther on the spot. So rather than leaving those questions unanswered, he has a model. Now, models are useful, they are useful tools, but they are not the world we live in. The world is not a model. So regardless of what Mark's model or anybody else's model shows you, that isn't the world. To believe that it is number one reason why we're in the problems that we're in, because people don't appreciate that a model, heliocentric model, is just a way of perceiving how things might work. It's not the world we live in. We don't move around the sun, it's preposterous. But that's just part of the model and its description of how the world operates in that model. Now, it's trying to explain or correlate the lights in the sky with that model, and so is Mark. But Mark understands at a fundamental level that it's a tool, as opposed to his way of saying this is the world we live in.
I would
Yeah, thanks.
echo
Yeah,
that in
I
terms
think
of
that
Mark.
makes sense.
I wanted to just to say he doesn't get grief off us lot because he's quite honest in terms of the model, and he's also, for me, dealing in a very different realm. He's like probably the reason you've got to hear. But when you are here, then we're honest enough, like Nathan did just earlier, enough to say, actually, we don't know. But also we don't need a bullshit. And there are biblical people here, and I'm not one of them in the Christian sense, but there's still a lot of information that's yet to be disproven within the Bible. So you could use that to give yourself, like I say, a paradigm, a structure to something, especially if you hold the Bible the way some people do, then it's going to have more reverence to it. But I think the honest point of where we're at is we would say, I don't know. And I think 10th would and Neil would, but it'd be, but I've got a much better guess because I know the Bible is true. So for them, they've got more. But I think from a straight flat earth point of view, religion aside, there is the honest answer is we don't know. We'd love to find out. It's going to be great when we do, but we don't know.
What we know is that it's containment. I don't know what the shape is. I don't know what it looks like. I have clues, but it's not other than that. But the whole question is, how can you have gas pressure without containment? So the heliocentric model would have you right next to 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum of space, and the gas particles wanting to hug the Earth and not fill the vacuum. Well, that's not how gas works. So how can you be a baller? How can you be a heliocentric model person if you really understand gas pressure? Like Nathan said earlier, atmo, air, sphere. Well, saying air takes the shape of a sphere. Well, please show me that. Air takes the shape of a container.
Right. Yeah, because even you're saying that even though as like the as you go high, the gas gets thinner, but it can get thinner and thinner and thinner, and you can keep measuring that it gets thinner and thinner. But
that's
there is
gradient.
still some
Yeah,
at some point
the
there's
problem
some
with that, my friend, is that you're
Hold on,
talking about
guys.
the pressure.
Hello? Can you not hear him talking? Go ahead.
yeah. So as you go high, the gas gets thinner and thinner, and while you can measure that it gets thinner and thinner, you're saying there's at still some point there must be a containment at that to contain the very last bit of gas at the highest point that there can be until you reach the container. Am I summarizing kind of the
Not the highest bit,
idea?
just at all.
There's the old phrase necessary antecedent. Yeah. We accept we have got gas pressure, and for all of natural law, the necessary antecedent to have that pressure is containment. What that containment is, no idea. But following natural law, everything we do know in reality, containment is required, as you alluded to earlier. We wouldn't keep an atmosphere.
I think one of the things he's a bit confused about is the gradient. He thinks that it's going to gradiate off to the point where gas no longer tries to fill the available space. And that just doesn't work.
But the reason why you have that is because you have containment.
We do have a measurable low-grade vacuum or pipe. It's about 10 to the minus 2 to 10 to the minus 3 torr. We do have that going off of independent weather balloon launches. Now, it depends. It depends. It might vary a little bit with different balloons, with different people using different instruments made by different companies, but it's about the same. But that is all created by the sun. You cannot have either temperature, pressure, or a vacuum without a container. It's impossible to create any of those. The sun is responsible for the gas pressure gradient.
Right, you said a good thing there, where it was measured. The equipment was strapped to a balloon. So the balloon is still working up there at that low torr, yeah? It's still working as a balloon. Just shows you
Well,
how thick the air is down here, but it's still working as a balloon up there.
Eventually, they do break. Eventually,
Yeah.
they do break. But yeah, it still works as a balloon up there. There's no evidence for the man there. There is no evidence of anything past about 30 to 36 miles. There's absolutely zero actual evidence. After that, you have to listen to NASA. You have to believe whatever NASA says, because after that point, there is no way to get past any measurement. You won't get a measurement, any actual measurement past that point. Everything past that point is a calculation that's based on a heliocentric model. But as I said, you can't have pressure, temperature, or a vacuum without a container. None of those three things can be attained without a container. A container is the antecedent for those three things. And the sun creates our gas pressure gradient. The sun is responsible for the gas pressure gradient. If the sun went away for a day, the gas pressure would equalize.
Did you say there is a vacuum up there?
There is a low-grade vacuum, a measurable low-grade vacuum, 10 to the -2 to 10 to the -3 torr.
Don't get too excited about the terminology. Arbitrarily assigning a certain amount of gas pressure, that would be gas at pressure, as a vacuum. Merely arbitrary definitions. How many minus torr you've got? Yeah, that's just ascribing a description and saying that amount of gas pressure is actually a vacuum.
It's describing a number of molecules, but as I said, just fundamentally, from reality's point of view, you can see the balloon up there working as a balloon still. So there's enough gas up there to hold the balloon up there to give that balloon buoyancy with whatever's strapped to it. Yeah.
Quick shout out to
But
Noel
when you-
Watson, just one sec, for joining as a channel member. So thank you very much for joining as a channel member, Noel Watson. I'll do a little bit of e-begging on this extended live show in a minute.
When you
That's why I
use
said
that
that.
term, there's a vacuum up there. Now you're giving an opportunity for anti-flat earther to jump all over you.
That opportunity was always there. How they describe and detail what they consider a vacuum and say, I've travelled up to this area and look, I can show this measurement of this amount of gas pressure. And we call that a vacuum. I win. Do you not think we haven't heard that? You're kidding me, right?
So it's just arbitrary, like how you guys talk about how a G unit or like a gravity unit is when you're sitting there. Like that's just arbitrarily assigned, and then 0 G is when you're falling.
Yeah, within the convention of gravity. Falling at 9.8 meters per second, right? In a perpetual motion. Well, that's 0 G. What do you mean 0? Well, constantly falling at a rate. That's constantly falling, so therefore that's 0. Well, why is it? Well, because I say so. And when you're sat there doing nothing, you've got 1 on you. 1 what? 1 G. Have I? Yeah. Why? Well, because I said so. Oh, okay.
But it's not like a ruler if you have a ruler and you're measuring something and you measure an inch and then you're like, oh, now I'm measuring 0. There's nothing here. And then I'm backing it to, because in my mind, like if you say it's a vacuum, it's like -0 or -1.
No, you can't have negative pressure. So even in a torr value, you're measuring the amount of collisions in a given area. So a rate of how much something's going to collide with something else is pressure. That's a measure of pressure. Doesn't matter if it's PSI or torr. You're saying, how many times will I have a collision on the walls of the container? That's the torr value. Well, it might be very, 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 very limited. 10 to the -17 torr, an exponentially limited number of collisions. Yeah? Well, that stands in violation of natural law, because when you've got a vast availability of volume, the gas just fills it. What I'm saying is, in a contained, just let me round that up. What I'm saying is, in a contained system, as we have, or must have, a contained system, it doesn't mean that you can't still reach low pressures. You can. But for the pressures to get to that low level, you first got to have gas pressure. For that system to develop to a point where you can have a very low pressure at a certain point for whatever reason, still needs containment for that to happen. Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
No, it was just the point you raised. I think important to realise that there's no such thing as negative pressure, and when you hear these descriptions with a Tor unit, 10 to the minus 2 and 3, that doesn't mean it's negative. You can't have minus molecules. What it's talking about is basic numeracy, 10, 10 times, or divided in this case because you're using minus, so it becomes 0.002 molecules per unit. Now, obviously, you can't have 0.02, but that's how you describe it mathematically. You'd have to increase the volume to explain how you've got 1 molecule. So at no point is there ever a negative. That's just in terms of the mathematical way of describing the decimal place. It's nothing to do with negative pressure, which can't exist.
Did you follow that? The negative 17 bit is just how many times you move the decimal place.
Yeah, it's kind of breaking my brain a little bit. I'm hung up.
Each time you move the decimal place, it's 1 order of magnitude less. So 0.1, and then 0.01, then 0.001. Yeah? Each time you move that decimal place, or add a 0, sorry, you're increasing the order of magnitude. Make sense?
But if I was a baller, I would be like, okay, then there's like a universal container that you're infinitely moving into, 0 pressure.
Yeah, sure, and they've got a value for that. What's that beeping? Wow. They've got a value for that, though, haven't they? They've got an area of space. So then you go, okay, fine. Now we can take the gas pressure that we experience, even if you say, all right, well, in that area where they've got a very low pressure, this is an old argument, man, I'm going back a bit to do this. What's it pressing on the top? So you say, oh, it's very, very low pressure up there. Okay. Yeah, but it's still got to press on something. So what's it pressing on? Well, it's got the weight of the air above it pressing down on it, is what they used to tell us. And you're like, well, there's no air above it pressing down on it. There's a vacuum that it can move into. Even though it is what you call a very weak vacuum, if you will. Still pressure. Still got to press on something. And if all you can do is calculate the volume that it's got to fill, that would be the volume of space. So suddenly you've got all of this gas pressure that we were experiencing and breathing with a massive amount of space to fill. So what's going to happen? Well, an entropic effect. It'll disperse. The entropy will increase. It's a law of nature. So we'd all be dead. So this nitpicking over gas pressure gradients, it's like it doesn't matter. Even if you get to a very, very, very low pressure, it's never going to reach the orders of magnitude that they describe as 10 to the minus 17 Tor sky vacuum. But even if you did have a very, very low pressure, it's still got to press on something.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to say, is that at no point will, just because you have such a low pressure, will it stop trying to fill the available space. Like, it's not just going to quit acting like gas.
You know, we've heard this, I've heard this so many times. The baller concept is that if we're in a container, it's got to be equal pressure at all places in that container. What they're missing is the fact that we're a dynamic system within a containment. And all the air is produced at ground level. And as it makes its way up, Nathan has said, do you see any vegetation on the high mountains? No, we don't. We don't see trees. We don't see anything producing oxygen in the high mountains. So as it keeps going up, then you got Brian coming in and sharing with us about how the sun, and when the sun goes away, the night affects all this. Then you got Adam telling you that it's a number of molecules are less up there versus the number of molecules down at Earth level where it's being produced. They got to get this idea out of their mind that if we're in the containment, it's got to be equal pressure at every part of that container, especially when you've got a dynamic system and the sun heating half the day, basically, and then cool at night. Things change.
Indeed. Go on, Chocolate.
If you,
Brian.
I was shocked. Oh, sorry. The only two things that can manipulate gas and its behavior is, number one, a container, and number two is temperature. Now we have constant temperature changes, but we have the highest temperature at the base and the lowest temperature high in the sky. Now, you can't have temperature without a container. You can't have pressure without a container. And you can't have vacuum without a container. So it is impossible to have a gas pressure gradient without a container. Because to have a gas pressure gradient, you need a container and you need a change in temperature. And you can't have temperature without the container. So this nonsense about how we have a gas pressure gradient means that it continues to dissipate and become, or to go lower in pressure and become 10 to the minus 17 torr out in the middle of heliocentric space is a load of rubbish. You can't have that. You can't have a gradient without a container. And you can't radiate the gas then without temperature.
Perfect. Adam,
these are just physics facts.
Adam, did you have a point that you wanted to add? If you have, I'm hoping you'll hold that thought.
I'll hold that thought.
Perfect, because I'm going to do an urgent e-begging appeal. So as administrative errors go, I've made one, and it's caused me to be slightly financially screwed, hopefully temporarily if I can correct the error, but it doesn't change the fact that I've made a mistake and it's caused me problems. So if you were considering supporting me, just so happens that now is the time that I'd really appreciate it more than ever. Not that I don't appreciate everyone who supports me via the Super Chat and via Patreon and via PayPal and all that good stuff. But if you were considering supporting me at the moment, I really would appreciate it, because I've ended up losing several £100 due to an error that I've made filling out a form, which isn't anybody's fault, but nevertheless, it's very difficult to run a YouTube channel, even if you've got a massive audience, and make you a living and do it full time. I do this full time with a relatively small channel, so times are always tight, and occasionally that means I have to e-beg. Humiliating though it is, it's just the way of life. So if you were considering hitting that PayPal link in the info box, now is the time to do so. I'd really, really would appreciate your support. And so that this doesn't get left in deafening silence, I'm now going to ask Adam to carry on with the point so it doesn't really interrupt the flow of this discussion. But thank you everyone who supports me. If you did happen to want to hit the PayPal link, I'll say it one more time. It's in the info box. Don't be shy. Shiny, shiny buttons. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, smash that super chat. Secondly, I totally agree with everything Brian's saying. I think from a flat earth's point of view, that the humility point again, have to come in and you have to say, I don't know with certain aspects, because what we've described is an ever increasing gas pressure. And we do know it's a dynamic system. So I would suggest whatever's going off at the top is balancing this out. You know, we can see that there's containment. We can see we're producing gas constantly at the bottom level. That explains a lot of stuff. There's got to be a lot of stuff we don't know that's going off at the top. And I've got no problem with that, because, yeah, there are things to find out. But as Brian said, it makes perfect sense. If you think of the sun as a thermal spoon within this container, you can see why it's being agitated. It's turning at quite a fantastic speed, isn't it, as it thermally changes across the plane. So we know lots about the system, but there's still lots to learn, is what I'd say. But what we do know is that it requires containment.
So we're normally reaching the point time-wise where the live show would end, and I'd probably be looking to round out the Uncut and After show. So if you're not already subscribed to my second channel, you don't have to be a member to see the Uncut and After show. You get it a day early, or if it's a weekend, sometimes 3 days early. But it still goes out eventually on my second channel. So subscribe today. I'm sure there's links for that as well below. But on the Uncut and After show, typically when we get to about the 2 hour mark, that'll be when some person who's, let's not be derogatory, partial to a bit of globe belief will jump in. So I've kept the show live. Is there anybody in Discord that had anything they wanted to object to, or maybe chant through us? Feel free. Check you're all off mute while I'm doing this. I'm not sure you are.
Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, thanks for all the responses. I think with interest. I think someone mentioned the weather balloon measurements. I think that's an interesting point, right? That if we could build a better weather balloon, we could take measurements even higher up and measure even lower points of pressure and kind of understand more from there, I guess.
Indeed.
Well, if you could go higher, that's the problem.
Hold on, I just need to gain control of this guy. See if he actually wants to say something. His mic's wide open, and every time I take him off mute. Sign, can you hear us? Sign, can you hear us? No, somebody's just removed him. Fine, good. Sorry about that. Okay, you're all off mute in
Yeah.
Discord. If anybody wants to add anything, now's your opportunity. Feel free.
I just want to play baller for a second.
Okay, fair enough, Eric.
So I would just like, if I was that still a baller, I would just be like, well, maybe the place that they're claiming to go to is a container. It's just a super massive container, like the edge of space is the container, and that the gas pressure is remaining here because of the sun. And then the reason the gas isn't expanding super far out into space is because the temperature is so low that the gas is expanding out there, but it's going so slowly that it still stays in the dynamic system and gets brought back down by all the changing dynamic system. That's just how I would
Brought
think.
back down.
Then they wouldn't call it a vacuum of space, then, would they?
No.
Exactly, and that's not what they
Hold
say.
on. What you've described is a violation of how gas actually behaves, though. So for it to slow down, stop, and come back down again, you'd have to reach absolute zero.
But wouldn't it be able to get, because the temperature would be so low that the speed would get so low that it could like bounce off of the other air molecules. So the air coming out behind it could like bounce off the preceding air molecules.
Depends. Are you arguing from a globe perspective, i.e. there's no particulates to bounce off of in 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum? There's nothing. What are you going to bounce off? If you're saying it's going very, very, very slowly, yeah, in whatever direction it's travelling, okay, let's say I accept this, okay, it slows down. It's still travelling in one direction until it collides with something, though, isn't it? So all of the gas that we experience is just going to follow the effects of entropy, and we're going to still lose all the gas. You saying it slows down, well, it's still going in that direction. It's not, as you describe, reaching zero and then coming back down again. That's not how gas behaves.
But gas is being created here, so like it can be created over and over again.
Yeah, but
Eric,
hold on. Have you got any idea if to sustain gas, if it was ever increasing into the sky vacuum with dispersion, we'd have hurricane winds coming out of the ground just to keep us maintained with gas pressure at that rate? It's ludicrous.
That's I was just going to say. That's that big fan belief again.
yeah, but Eric, hang on one second. Eric, you got to realize their claim is an open system. You're describing a closed system.
Well, I'd like to scale that back for a second. Think of yourself on the highway going 70, and there's somebody going 40 and you rear end them. Are you going to fly backwards?
No, but I would, if it kept happening over and over again, it would create a barrier for. But cars don't bounce off of each other. If it was a bunch of balls, then maybe like a big rubber ball that was stopped, and then another one crashed into the back of it and bounced back.
Sure, but the rate that this would occur is proportional to time and described with entropy.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to, because this new vacuum thing that Brian said, it's got my mind thinking, and I'm trying to think about it. I don't know.
Yeah, but
okay.
yeah, but you're making a fatal flaw here.
New
You're
vacuum
describing-
thing.
No,
The fatal flaw you're making is describing it as a closed system rather than their claim that it's an open system. The vacuum of space.
But the closure would be at the edge of the universe. That's where the
They don't
closure
claim
would be.
that.
Can I
They
just
don't claim
make a point with regard to this thing that Brian said and this minus 3 or 2 torr up there? The balloon weight and all the weight of the equipment is still less than the volume that it's occupying in terms of the weight, the mass of the air that's in there. It still has buoyancy up there. There's still Loads. Even though 10 to the minus 2 sounds really small, there's still enough to give that and all the equipment buoyancy.
Do you all follow what Adam's saying? He's saying that even at
Yeah.
10 to the minus 2, there's enough particulate gas to smack against stuff to keep it buoyant. In other words, there's loads of gas pressure at that level. Calling it a vacuum is arbitrary.
Yeah.
Can we make a bigger balloon or a stronger balloon and take measurements? If we had a stronger balloon, could we take measurements even higher up?
Well,
Is that possible?
I think they've
Yeah.
see, the problem they have is sorry, Adam, do you want to go? And I'll
Well,
take
just
on a
a
second.
quick answer. Yes, of course, if they can get a higher tensile strength balloon. But what's happening when the balloon bursts is the internal pressure has become greater than the external pressure, yeah, and the resistance of the balloon, yeah. So eventually it's going to go, but you could go higher with greater tensile strength, couldn't you? And does that make sense? But there would. Is there a limit? I don't know, because do you reach the top if you've got sufficient tensile strength? What's limiting at the moment is the thing that the balloons burst. That's what's restricting measurements.
I like how Adam subtly dropped in that you don't know if it might hit the top, and that's a very good point. Now, you've got to get back to ground level basics when it comes to this stuff, right? What are we talking about in this discussion? Well, the nature of our reality, which we have most certainly been lied to about. What's the key thing we've been lied to about? Well, what heaven is, what the sky is to them, what the nature of our reality is. A lot of that is about what the sky actually is, claimed to be 10 to the minus 17 Tor area for you to travel to lights in the sky. For all we know, a bit more tensile strength and a little bit more helium and a bit more space for it to expand into, and it hit the roof, for all we know.
Well, the thing about it is the argument about the tensile strength. If you think about that, that is a debunking of the globe claim, because it just shows how powerful gas behavior can be due to pressure differential, because they can only fill the helium, the weather balloons that they do send up so much. They have to leave them somewhat limp, because that gas inside is going to expand as the pressure outside becomes less. That the helium will expand more inside the balloon, and that's eventually what. So it's the lower pressure eventually breaks the balloon. That's basically what happens.
Quick shout out to Capano 5150. He says, we can be poor together, Nathan, after smashing the super chat and giving me $5. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to make another quick note as well. There's 190 people watching, which is the largest audience I have had since COVID. So when COVID hit, my audience figures plummeted. I mean, I thought it would be happy days. Everyone's at home, right? Everyone's going to watch me. Not at all. My figures took a massive hit. Now, 190 people watching. I only kept the live show going because I wanted to do a bit of extra e-begging. I've made a tax error and it's cost me dearly. So smash the PayPal link. But it's nice to have a decent sized audience. I mean, wow, brilliant stuff. Happy days and welcome to all of you who've just joined us live. This is a non-typical thing. We don't normally have an extended 2-hour live show, but today we are.
Well, I came on because of COVID, so great.
Oh, I didn't know that. You joined at the beginning of COVID. Oh, right.
That's correct.
So you went on lockdown and then saw the show. That is very reassuring. Obviously, completely pisses on the bonfire that I just lit, but there we go.
Well, I'm the only one. No, I listened to the show way before that, but I joined because I was bored out of my mind.
Your YouTube numbers are being manipulated. People actually do watch you, Nathan.
Did you want to say something? Hello, world.
I want to say, yeah, thanks for the explanation about the tensile strength. I think it got me thinking about, I think, the other show, you know, the Bezos and stuff. Is there other ways? Like, there's balloon measurements. Would there be like a way to take a measurement if you use the rocket and like let go of a balloon that once the rocket gets like goes really high up, and then you let go of the balloon at that point? I don't know. Just a thought.
Well,
And that's
the
what
balloon,
that's
that
what it's all
wouldn't
about.
change anything. Sorry.
So, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that wouldn't change anything. You'd still have to have the tensile strength, and you still have to have limited helium in it and tensile strength, because at a low pressure, it doesn't matter the pressure. There would be the same issue you'd be running into, which would be the low pressure outside, causing the helium, the limited helium that's inside it, to expand the balloon too much, and that's why the balloon ends up breaking.
Right. What if the rocket could go even higher than the balloon? Yeah. So what if the rocket could go higher than the strongest balloon? Then maybe we take the balloon part off. We keep the measurement part of it, and
Well,
we
yeah. See,
bring that with us really high up with the rocket. Would we be able to go higher than the balloon would be able to go?
Okay, let me answer that question, right? The next step, if you want to find anything that they claim as a measurement after the balloons, the next step is what is NASA and Space Agency sounding rockets, and they're claiming that these sounding rockets are going out into a 10 to the minus 17 Torr vacuum, and then dropping a payload that takes measurements and comes back to Earth. This is their claim. So the next step after balloons is a claim that the sky vacuum, the endless sky vacuum, exists, but that is a physics impossibility. So that has to be a load of rubbish. So they don't have anything, any real world measurements. They don't have. They only have a claim of sending rockets up and that go out to basically 10 to the minus 17 Torr, or in that direction of a vacuum, and they drops a payload. Records the pressure and whatever else, and it comes back down. So you have to go past weather balloons, right, and accept any measurements past that. You have to accept heliocentrism and accept a physics impossibility. So that's the problem.
Okay. Okay, but you're saying the sounding rocket goes to 10 to the minus 17 Torr. But what about that helium balloon that you mentioned? It measured, what was its measurement?
10 to the minus 2 to 10 to the minus 3 Torr, which would be
so
which would be nothing compared to the 10 to the minus 17 Torr.
So at what point in between those two measurements am I like, oh, that's absurd? Why is the first one correct? Like that's possible to achieve, but the last one isn't. At what
Because
because
it's a delta. Because it's a delta. That's why. So earlier Adam mentioned necessary antecedent. So the order these things will occur in is first containment, then gas pressure. That would be gas pressing, then gas pressure gradients and dynamic systems. First, you've got to have gas at pressure to develop a dynamic system to have gas pressure gradients. So you've got to have containment in the first instance. So saying, and it's admirable, I was going to commend you, and I will. Where does it end? What is the sky? What point do we don't? Is it that we don't decrease any more in pressure? Because that's going to be the roof, right? And how do we achieve that ends? How do we find the roof? All brilliant questions. And this is part of the joy of finding out about this subject. It's not anymore is it the case that it's the Truman Show example where the teacher pulls down the map and says it's all been discovered. Suddenly the world's your oyster. Anybody with a childlike wonder has got a wonderful time ahead of them when they find out they've been lied to about what the sky is. Because you can ask all the questions you're asking. But there are certain parameters that are going to always apply. In this case, containment first. Then gas pressure. Then gas pressure gradients. It's the red herring of the century. Because all they're doing is employing the same red herring over and over again. Well, we've got gas pressure gradients. Therefore, it dissipates to 10 to minus 17 Torr. No, that's a violation of natural law. That would be a vast amount of space for the gas which is at pressure to fill.
Can I throw a few facts out there? Sorry, John, I'll go after John.
I was just going to say that one of the problems with this topic is that so much of the conventions we use to communicate with have been tainted by heliocentrism, like weight, buoyancy, things like that. There's so much baggage that comes with those words because of how they've been defined through the years.
Correct, and that is the essence of magic. Words and their meaning, spells and spelling. Absolutely correct. There's a reason why we call the air we breathe atmosphere.
Can I throw a few facts out there that might help people with questions?
Yeah.
At 10 miles up, and this is just 10 miles, the temperature is officially minus 51 degrees. And it actually starts to rise after that. So the temperature starts to rise after that. Now, we're not going to go into that part right now. Maybe in a few minutes. Right? So, but below 10 miles up, at least, and this is official, at least 75% of all our gas supply is below 10 miles up. But we have what are known as, what they call these atmospheric boundary layers, right? Now, what they are is where you see the clouds start to form, the first clouds that start to form, that's where your local boundary layer is. So what we have is boundary layers that keep about at least 75% of that other 75% below the cloud level. So you have the absolute majority of all our gas supply is naturally below the cloud level. And on top of that, both nitrogen, which is claimed to be 78% of our gas supply, and oxygen, which is claimed to be 21% of our gas supply. The two of them, and I'm not even going to talk about the other ones, they're also recycled, but the two of them are constantly recycling with the surface of the earth. And that makes up 99% of our total gas supply. So 99% of our total gas supply is always recycling with the surface of the earth. And the other 1% is also recycling. It just doesn't have the same cycle as those two. You have minus 51 degrees at 10 miles up. You have at least 75% of all our gas supply below that 10 miles, and at least 75% of that 75% below the cloud level. All these things are explained, and not once is the explanation of gravity needed for any of this. Because that's what the heliocentric believers believe, that there is a force of gravity, even though there isn't a force of gravity in their own model since 1950.
Right.
So the sun is heating the majority of the gases which are at ground level all the time. And it creates a temperature, right? A temperature gradient. And that temperature gradient then creates a gas pressure gradient. How many gases, for the people asking questions there, how many gases can perform past minus 51 degrees?
That is a question that we will definitely get answered in the after show. So I'll say stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've kept this live show going because I did want to do a bit of extra e-begging, so I've made a bit of a blunder and could do with support. So if you are in a position to support me, or you are considering support me, there is a PayPal link below this video, so please smash that PayPal link, and that'll be very much appreciated. But in the meantime, a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you who did smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, became a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!